Hey, Grandpa, are we alone in the universe?
Yes.
But there's no one else then?
Yes, but they're alone too.
For nearly 60 years, communication with extraterrestrial intelligence's radio telescopes have aimed their antennas at the sky seeking extraterrestrial intelligence. Using their large ears to detect signals, searching for evidence of other intelligence in the cosmos besides ours. After scanning thousands of stars and spending thousands of hours collecting signals, it's still complete radio silence. The silence from other intelligences troubles many of us and raises questions. If our galaxy is so vast and has hundreds of millions of possible habitable planets, as observations suggest, why haven't we detected any extraterrestrial signals? To try to answer this, today we'll look at the strangest events we've detected while listening to the cosmos and ask ourselves if, after all, we're not just listening in the wrong place. Let's examine current listening programs trying to read between the frequencies, to see if this great silence isn't simply the sound of our ignorance, the one produced by an extraterrestrial language that slips under our radar. Some listening campaigns have still captured astonishing things. Enigmatic signals that almost always turned out to be exotic and previously unknown physical phenomena, or whose origin was traced back to events happening on Earth, sometimes in the next room. What you're hearing is a sound transcription of a light signal, extremely energetic and cutting through the dark night of space with the regularity of a cosmic metronome, which was detected in 1967. This strange signal, extremely regular and reaching us in the form of short radio pulses, hitting the antennas of our radio telescopes every 1.337 seconds precisely, was unlike anything known. When we first got our hands on it, following this discovery, there was a slight stir in the scientific community, and one of the seriously considered hypotheses to explain the origin of these strange regular pulses suggested that this signal originated from a powerful extraterrestrial technology. In the months after the signal was detected and named Little Green Man, 1 for Little Green Man, many similar radio beams began to be discovered in other regions of the sky. Signals as regular as Little Green Man, 1 but with different pulses. There was no doubt, an amazing, previously unknown natural phenomenon had just been discovered. These strange beams are not emitted by extraterrestrial civilizations trying to communicate with us, but by some of the most bizarre stars called pulsars. Rapidly spinning neutron stars, formed from collapsing giant stars, act like cosmic lighthouses, spinning hundreds of times per second and sweeping the black moon with their beams, which makes them appear to blink each time they pass through the line of sight of our planet. Over 2,000 of these remarkably regular stars have now been found in our galactic neighborhood. In the decades following the discovery of pulsars, other detections of exotic physical phenomena, previously unknown, would for a time sow doubt. The most astonishing discovery occurred in the mid-2000s in Australia, when a brief signal from deep space was detected during a review of data from the Parkes radio telescope. It was 100 times stronger than the cosmic background noise. A signal emitted by a source whose diameter was estimated to be a quarter of that of our planet. Faced with this astonishing discovery, radio telescopes all over the world began searching for these strange bursts as well. But the sky remains desperately silent for everyone. Until a detection occurs again this time. The signal doesn't come from one region of the sky, but appears to originate from nearly the entire sky, almost as if from Earth itself. And, what's extremely curious, the Parkes radio telescope is once again the only one to detect it. In 2010, 16 of these unusual bursts were detected only at the Parkes Observatory. Everyone is now convinced the Australian Observatory's antenna has a major problem. And then, 2 years later, on the other side of the world, in Puerto Rico, the large radio telescope at Arecibo Observatory also detects a strong radio signal with a similar signature. In the coming years, similar signals will be detected by other radio telescopes worldwide. except those found by Parkes Observatory in the 2010s. All fast radio bursts originate from distant galaxies. We had just discovered a new and extremely frequent physical phenomenon on the scale of the universe. Considering all statistically undetected signals, it's estimated that nearly 10,000 occur daily in the cosmos. Unless we consider that throughout the universe, highly advanced extraterrestrial civilizations are sending the same type of signal, we have most likely discovered a new extremely energetic phenomenon occurring in the turbulent environments of galactic centers. While the natural causes of fast radio bursts are still debated, they are generally thought to involve pulsars becoming black holes or the collapse of a new type of star. Regarding signals detected multiple times only in Australia that appear to originate from much of the sky simultaneously. Well, after a thorough investigation conducted by the laboratory teams, we finally got to the bottom of the story. All the signals detected during the 2010s at the Parkes radio telescope did not come from the far reaches of the universe, but from the room next door. They all showed up during the week and office hours, and the culprit was eventually found. Staff used a microwave oven, and whenever it was opened before the timer ended, signals escaped. Some residual microwaves whose presence would disrupt the astonishing sensitivity of the radio telescope by creating a signal partly similar to the one produced by powerful events occurring at the edge of the universe. In short, the Australian researchers were essentially misled by their machine's sensitivity. By sifting through the vast symphony of electromagnetic waves from deep space, we've uncovered exotic phenomena, discovered pulses from dying stars, and occasionally recorded even rarer events. Signals whose meaning and origin still elude us. Signals we can't connect to any specific physical phenomenon, and whose strange melody, standing out from the cosmic background noise, seems for a moment to tell us, "You are not alone, we are here." That's the case for the one that remains, to this day, the most enigmatic of them all, the Wahoo signal. It's named because the analyst who reviewed the radio telescope data was so surprised by its intensity and clarity that he circled the anomaly and wrote Wahoo next to it. Yes, this strong, unusual radio signal was detected on August 15, 1977 towards Sagittarius, causing a stir. At the time, it stood out because it was emitted near the waterhole, a frequency band where transmissions are forbidden on Earth, because that's where water's spectral signature is found. It seems most logical to listen and transmit there when searching for extraterrestrial civilizations. The main issue with the Wahoo signal is that it was detected for just 72 seconds, precisely because the radio telescope that detected it relied solely on the Earth's rotation to scan the sky. When we refocused on the Sagittarius constellation, where the signal originated, it had disappeared. Despite many hours spent by several radio telescopes worldwide scanning the sky where Wahoo originated, this long, unique signal was never detected again. To explain its origin, several hypotheses have been explored, among which are possible artificial sources coming from our planet, and those signals reflected in space off drifting debris, interference from a comet, or even the presence of clouds, gas, and dust, like many other exotic natural sources. But as appealing as it may be, none of these explanations could be confirmed with certainty. And the Wahoo signal remains to this day the most mysterious ever recorded. A mysterious signal that hasn't repeated in 60 years of observation. And it doesn't contain enough data for us to say anything about it. That's still a bit meager as a harvest. And even if some people imagine that the Wahoo signal could be a fragment of a lost communication, a piece of a message that wasn't meant for us, the fact remains that with only this to go on, we won't get very far. And that's where it gets interesting. Frustrated by the silence, some scientists now wonder if we're listening in the wrong place. You'll find the idea both fascinating and a bit unsettling. We tend to think that, to communicate toward the stars, it's only logical to use repetitive patterns, and to build signals using mathematical structures in order to distinguish ourselves from emissions coming from natural phenomena that fill the sky. The idea is that whether you're a human on Earth or an extraterrestrial in the Orion Nebula, or a form of life based on silicon chemistry in another star system, if you're curious about your surroundings and want to understand them, distance doesn't matter. At some point, mathematics and geometry should appear to you. Any mind seeking to understand nature's laws should eventually consider the idea of a circle and eventually find the number p as it likely exists in geometric relationships. And no matter the nature and culture of the intelligence that gives rise to it, or the region of the cosmos where this idea appears, a form like a sphere remains the same everywhere in the universe. In short, mathematics would transcend cultural and biological barriers. It would be a kind of universal language to rely on for communication and expression. So, logically, these are the kinds of pattern signals we've been trying to find for decades. Except that for nearly 6 decades, we've only listened to a small proportion of the electromagnetic signals reaching us, the ones that seem to be the most effective for them to use, to communicate between the stars, because their frequency allows them to travel through the interstellar medium without being distorted. But maybe the extraterrestrials aren't silent, just inaudible, and this deafening silence is only an illusion. This white noise without any particular pattern could be filled with language waiting to be deciphered, communicating in frequencies or by means we hadn't thought of. It's especially to start listening to things we didn't pay much attention to before. Brex-Wallison was created in 2015 as the most ambitious and comprehensive project to search for extraterrestrial intelligent life. This program allocates thousands of hours on the radio telescope, covering 10 times more sky than all previous searches, to listen to cosmic whispers, to detect structured messages with logical recurring patterns in wavelengths best suited for communication. But it also scans the sky in those wavelengths that would seem absurd to use, while also paying attention to what at first glance appears to be nothing more than ambient white noise. Brex-Wallison is stepping back. He's interested in a broader level of detail than the one usually used to study the cosmos, with the hope that we have been, in some way, like an anthropologist studying, too close to the wall to notice the massive carvings covering it. Thus, this project listens to the extended radio frequencies of what is called the silent zone, that is, the part of the spectrum where the waves are not obscured by those emitted by astrophysical phenomena, but also the frequencies considered uninteresting. And at the same time, it concentrates immense computing power to process the staggering amounts of data accumulated from decades of observing the stars, and even goes through studies of gravitational waves. The goal each time is to detect possible anomalies with the most open-minded approach. Hidden patterns that we might have missed and that could reveal the presence of extraterrestrial intelligence. Brex-Wallison observes 1 million nearby stars, central regions of about 100 galaxies, white dwarfs, around 20 neutron stars, black holes, and mysterious stars with unusual brightness fluctuations that remain poorly understood, and which could be explained by the presence in orbit of highly speculative Dyson spheres, those extraterrestrial megastructures that would allow for harvesting almost all of a star's energy by blocking it out. In short, it's very rich and all collected data is public. If you're interested, I'll add the link below the video. So the big question is, what did we find? They just published their initial results and we found nothing. There are 11 events exceeding the significance threshold, but all match radio frequency interference. A series of 15 strange radio bursts is coming from a dwarf galaxy about 3 billion light-years away, and which are probably still a phenomenon that we don't understand. The great silence continues. Not a single whisper of extraterrestrial technology has been detected yet. There are only 3 possible explanations. Either intelligent life forms are so rare and far apart in space and time that there are none detectable nearby. Or they exist, but for reasons I've already explained in this video, they don't want to or aren't able to communicate with us, or we're just listening in the wrong way. And all 3 possibilities are just as mind-blowing as each other. I have to share something that really troubled me while making this video. The most powerful radio telescopes we currently have are sensitive enough to detect radio transmissions from a transmitter as powerful as a military aircraft radar. Within a radius of about 150 light-years from us, such a volume of space contains several tens of thousands of stars. So we can reasonably assume that there is no technologically advanced civilization wishing to communicate within a radius of 150 light-years around us. That's huge. Of course, we can always imagine that they're only using communication channels to which we are technically deaf. They're attempting to start a dialogue using gravitational waves, ripples in space-time that travel through the universe nearly undisturbed by obstacles. But they require absolutely staggering amounts of energy to be produced in quantity and cutting-edge infrastructure to be detected. Or maybe they prefer silence, waiting for us to break the ice that separates us. And what if, up until now, all the messages we've sent out into the cosmos have all gone unanswered? It's simply that space is so vast that most of them still haven't reached their destination. If you're interested, I go into detail about the strangeness of all the signals we've already sent in a video that's right here. Most of all, I like one idea. Let's imagine that soon, the Breakthrough Listen program detects a structured and repetitive signal, so unique and rich. There is absolutely no doubt that only an extraterrestrial intelligence could have created it. But this message was not designed to be deciphered. It could simply be a radio broadcast of some kind that we intercepted, a cooking show, an adult film from another world, instructions for making a planet. It doesn't matter what the content is. We wouldn't understand it, since hieroglyphs on Earth were indecipherable for almost 1,400 years. Until the discovery of the Rosetta Stone, which had translations in several languages, made it possible to decipher them. Even though these were invented by members of our own species, and there are still languages today, such as Linear A or those found on the Phaistos disk, that have yet to be deciphered. It makes you think that understanding an extraterrestrial message, which wasn't designed to be understood by another species, could be an insurmountable challenge. Yet, this gibberish could be the most amazing message. No matter if it's a yoga lesson, an alien recipe, or space travel technology, the key is its existence, which would quietly speak to us. You are not alone in this vast ocean of silence. In the meantime, all we can do is make assumptions. Among all the hypotheses that explain this great silence, known as the Fermi paradox, I can't resist sharing one of my favorites with you. This suggests the silence invites us to reflect on our existence, not simply marks an absence. The idea is that advanced extraterrestrial civilizations might intentionally stay silent. Having seen hundreds of similar civilizations like ours rise and fall, it would overlook our human commotion, waiting for us to reach technological, ethical, or philosophical maturity before breaking the silence. Like an adult letting a child explore so that he can discover and understand the world around him by himself. Here, the great silence is a deaf presence, the shadow of those who won't speak to us until we reach maturity. In short, searching for hypothetical extraterrestrial signals in the star's background noise is more than a technical or scientific challenge. It's a true inner journey toward our own limits, our prejudices, our dreams, and our fears. It forces us to consider the other, in the strongest sense of the word. This quest is both a search for answers and an invitation to question our place in a universe beyond us. And in this sense, this silence is a kind of blank page. And I allow myself to interrupt my past self, to remind you that I released a comic book about the Fermi paradox and the extraterrestrial hypothesis. Honestly, I'm really proud of it. Feel free to flip through it if you pass by a bookstore.